my name is Alex Weiss, and I'm a designer at Lunark Studios. Right now you're watching Prismata played 1v1, with a pretty crazy time control, 5 seconds a turn. Now in a moment, Will and Elliot are going to come talk about the game you see here, but first let me just tell you a little bit about Prismata while you watch. Prismata is a turn-based strategy game. It's absolutely free to play, all units are free, and there's no pay to win. We still have lots of work to do before release, but we want feedback on what people like, what we can improve on, and overall if where we're going is a good direction. Now there are 3 ways to play Prismata: 1v1, raids, and the campaign. We're going to get to the other 2 modes in future videos, but what you see here is 1v1, which was specifically designed for competitive play. At the beginning of a 1v1, units that both sides can purchase are randomly generated, which ensures that every game is fresh. Here, memorizing openings isn't useful at all. Every game is a new experience, and you're really using your intuition from previous games to make decisions. During the actual turns of the game, there's no luck and no hidden information. That means you can plan your turns perfectly, and in hindsight, concretely know if your move was right or wrong. And it's really allowing players to achieve a deep level of mastery they can't get from other games. And it lets you express that mastery too. So instead of being a 60% or marginal favorite like you would in games with luck, if you're good enough at Prismata, you can be a 95% or even 100% favorite, even versus another good player. And the key word here is, if you're good enough. Because luck doesn't affect the turns in the game, there's virtually no limit to how good of a player you can be in Prismata. So in this game specifically, Elliot got Tia Thurnax, an explosive dragon. Meanwhile, Will opted for Doomed Mechs, a flexible attacker. Who's going to win the game? Let's fast forward now to Will and Elliot sitting down with us and discussing the game move by move. I hope you guys enjoy.
Hey guys, this is Elliot.
Hey, this is Will.
And we are going over that 3-minute blitz game that we just played. We'll go over it in quite a bit more detail.
Yeah, I kind of wanted to run through the turns and get your thoughts throughout the game.
Right. So for those who aren't familiar with Prismata, this is what the battlefield looks like. Will's units are on his side in the bottom. My units are at the top. This panel over here is how many resources Will has, and these are my resources. And these 2 tabs over here are all of the different units that we can purchase during the fight. And there are 2 tabs of units because the units on the left, which we call the base set, are the units that you can buy in every single game of Prismata. The units on the right, however, are randomly generated, and they're different every time you play. So in each game, you have to select your strategy based on which of these units are available, and your goal is to sort of like plan a good build order based on which techs are good or what counters what.
Right, because the random units are usually like a tad bit stronger, so that you're not going to always just get the base set units every game only.
Yeah, and these base units, we've all memorized them because we've played so many times, and they all have hotkeys, so we just buy them with hotkeys and play pretty quickly. So Will, why don't you start off? What did you do on your first turn?
Yeah, sure. I just bought 2 drones. There weren't really any alternatives here, so drone, it costs 3 gold and an energy, and the energy was produced by my engineers at the start of my turn. So I have enough to build exactly 2 drones, and at the start of an RTS, usually you just want to build up your economy.
Yeah, so unless you want to go for a crazy rush, normally the first thing you do is build a couple of drones, and I did the same thing. Because I go second, I get to start with an extra drone, so I actually have 1 gold left over, and that gets stored until my next turn.
Yeah, so on my next turn, I just bought 2 drones again. I definitely had a couple of options here, I think. A pretty greedy option would be to buy a 3rd engineer here. This would allow me to produce 3 energy every turn, which allows me to build 3 drones next turn and build up a really large economy. But looking through the random set, if you go through here, I remember what was running through my mind was there wasn't much defense, so I wasn't looking to do that. I was trying to beat you down. So I could have actually bought a drone and a blast forge here. Blast forge is a structure that costs 5, and it would have worked out perfectly in terms of spending all 8 of my gold, and the blast forge produces a blue, which would allow me to build, say, an attacker like a steel splitter next turn. So I think that's a reasonable option, but I didn't want to rush that hard because there's no real good follow-up. The 4th and final option that I considered was getting a drone and a victory bond. This is sort of the option that gives me the most options next turn, because victory bond, it doesn't commit me to anything. It just gives me 6 gold and it only costs 5 gold, so I make a profit, and it gives me 6 gold to do whatever I want to next turn. And this allows me to react very quickly to what you do and gives me a lot of dynamism, but I didn't think you were going to do anything super crazy, so I just went for the safer drone.
Yeah, that's pretty standard, just to build drones for a little while. I think I was the first one to not go drones. I went drone, and then conduit. The conduit produces the green resource. Of course, there are these 3 other colored resources that are used to allow you to produce all of the other types of units in the game. So I chose to get a conduit, and really I was looking at this Tia Thernax, which is a kind of crazy unit that we'll talk about a bit later. But in order to get it, I need 3 green. And the green, like the gold, can be stored. So if I buy a conduit, then 3 turns later I'll have 3 green, and I'll be able to get the Tia Thernax. So that's sort of my plan.
Right, so I guess unlike you, the unit that caught my eye the most in this set was the Dune Mech. It's a very potent attacker in the mid-game. It attacks for 2 and defends for 5. Unfortunately, though, it only lasts 5 turns because it has lifespan 5. But it just puts so much pressure that that's the unit I wanted to get when I looked at the set. So I bought 2 drones and a blast forge to get my first source of blue this turn.
Right. So you need the blue resource, unlike the green, cannot be saved up. So at the end of your turn, if you have unspent blues, then they just rot. And they aren't saved to a future turn. So you want to, you actually need to get 2 blast forges in order to get the Doom Mech. But you didn't commit to that just yet. You only bought 1.
Yeah, I think I could have considered it, but I think it's a bit too all-in, and it gives me very few options in the future because, like you said, blues can't really be stored. So I just thought this gave me more options for future turns. I could still transition into something else if I wanted to. Just gave me a bit more drones to work with.
Yeah. So I went drone blast forge, which is nice. It spends all my gold. Mainly I'm getting a blast forge just to get up a wall so that I can defend against your rush and then counterattack by getting the Tia Thernax later. And because there's this unit here called a steel forge, the steel forge, when you get it, you actually sacrifice your blast forge. And what the Steel Forge does is it allows you to convert your drones, which are the workers, into Steel Splitters, which are attackers. So my plan is basically get a lot of drones and then sacrifice them all so that I have a lot of attackers, and maybe get a wall in the meantime before doing that. But putting up an early Blast Forge for defense is always decent.
Right. Yeah, so this turn, since you didn't really put too much pressure on me, I decided to seize the attack and get the first unit on the battlefield, get Steel Splitter, and then I committed to my original plan of getting a second Blast Forge so that I could pump out Doomed Mechs every turn with the 2 blues that they produce.
Right. So a Steel Splitter is a basic attacker. It can attack for 1 or it can defend for 3. We'll talk a little bit more about the combat system in a moment. I put up a wall because it essentially prevents Will from being able to do any damage to me just yet. And then I built a drone and a victory bond, I believe. Really, I just, I thought about actually getting the Animus. The Animus produces 2 reds, unlike the Blast Forge and the Conduit. It produces 2 of the same resource. And a red is necessary for the Tia Thernax, which is this crazy unit that I want to get. But I wanted to sort of wait a bit longer, beef up my economy a bit more, because the Tia Thernax, when you construct it, you have to consume 7 drones. So you sacrifice your economy in order to get up this big, strong attacker. And I felt like if I attacked too early, then I wouldn't have enough of a follow-up. So I thought I would just wait a little bit longer.
Yeah, and I could quickly get up a lot of walls with that double Blast Forge. So I think that was a wise decision. And yeah, I think so this turn I got the Doom Mech. And then I realized that if I bought an Animus, it sort of worked out perfectly in my build order if you scroll over to the next
so you
tab.
have 6 exactly, which is exactly enough for the Animus.
Right, and because I stored 2 from last turn. So I purchased an Animus. And what this means is every turn with my 12 drones and the 2 red produced by the Animus and the 2 blues produced by the Blast Forges, I could pump out exactly 1 Dune Mech and 2 Frostbites every turn. And Frostbite is a unit where I can sacrifice it to chill something for 3. So like your wall, it only has 3 health, so I can chill your wall, and it temporarily prevents your wall from blocking for that turn. So it allows me to sort of breach through your defenses and get to your more fragile drones when I'm attacking. So I just thought this was a very strong mid-game timing attack if I went for this build order.
Right, okay. So I think at this point I want to get the Tia Thernax, so I got the Animus to produce the red. I got an Isochronous because I actually have 1 green more than I need for the Tia Thernax, so I figured I might as well get an attacker with it. And then I also put down 1 Steel Splitter, and I got the Steel Forge. So my Blast Forge is no more. It's been converted into this Steel Forge, and I'm all ready to sort of go all in the future turns.
Yeah, so to be honest, I remember I was like scared out of my pants this turn because I wasn't aware that you were trying to go for the Tia Thernax until suddenly you bought all this stuff. You bought the Animus, and then I was like, oh wow, he can actually get it next turn. And it's a pretty good stop to this rush of mine, sort of, because it counterattacks me so hard and seizes the attack for you, sort of. But I still proceeded with my plan for 1 more turn, so I just bought a Doom Mech and 2 Frostbites. You know, I wanted to see that you would actually get to Tia Thernax, sacrifice your drones, and then I would try to react on a future turn. I did actually have an interesting decision this turn where I could decide whether I wanted to attack with my units. So
right. So I mean, let me explain a bit how attacking works. So if Will chooses to attack with his units, they don't defend, and he would attack me for 3 damage. And what would then happen is at the start of my turn, I have to deal with 3 damage. And the way in which you defend in Prismata is these units with a blue shield in the corner, they're defending, and you can click them in order to absorb the damage. And you click your units sequentially in order, in the order that you want them to defend, and any unit that doesn't take lethal damage just lives. So here I could defend Engineer in front of wall, the Engineer dies, the wall lives, and Will has made a net kill of 1 Engineer. But in doing so, he's made his own attackers no longer defending. So I could attack him and kill 1 of his engineers. So really the choice is about whether or not Will wants to trade engineers, and you chose not to, right?
Right. So I didn't do any kind of precise calculation of whether it was a good idea to trade engineers, but my gut sort of said probably you were going to get Tia Thernax and sacrifice your economy to the Steel Forge as well. So I'm going to do better in the late game, and if I don't trade engineers, the game will last a bit longer because we both have a bit more defense, and that should work out in my favor because I'm going to have more drones.
Right, so I did use the Steel Forge and build a Tia Thernax. I got this unit called a Rhino. I had 1 red left over. The Rhino is sort of a defensive unit. And then I built another drone, just adding more fuel to the Steel Forge. And the Tia Thernax has the following interesting property. It attacks for 7, which is a huge amount, but it can only attack 3 times. And after it attacks 3 times, it's out of stamina and just becomes a passive defender that can't do anything. So really what I need to do is deal as much damage as possible as quickly as possible. And that's sort of my goal right here.
Right. So to counteract that, I guess I was just trying to build up walls quickly while the Tia Thernax had stamina remaining. So I bought 2 walls and an engineer this turn. So engineer, aside from producing energy, it is a pretty cheap blocker for the next turn, because it doesn't have prompt, so it doesn't block right away. The
wall has this ability called prompt, meaning it blocks as soon as you buy it. The engineer, you have to wait 1 turn for it to get constructed before it can block. So in that sense, the wall is, comes to your rescue soon. And these numbers on the left, they show how much I'm potentially threatening to attack for, which is 12. And so you want your defense to be higher than that so that you don't get breached.
Right, exactly. So that I can always have 1 more defense than your attack and have my last unit survive the
attack. You attacked as well.
Right, exactly, because I could attack and I would have exactly 13 left over, which is for defense, which is 1 more than your attack, and I would get to kill something. So I could have just used up my Frostbites here, but really I'm not really getting much gain. You have so many defenders, and I could use both and gain. Yeah, I could chill your Steel Splitter and your wall and, kill 1 more engineer, because you would have to defend probably engineer,
Rhino against your 3 attacks.
But to sacrifice 2 Frostbites for that, I don't think it was worth it, so I just quickly attacked for 3.
So you attacked for 3, and I defended engineer wall, or maybe engineer Steel Splitter, doesn't matter at all. It makes absolutely no difference. So here I did attack for absolutely everything. And my primary concern is actually just keeping the Tia Thernax alive. I don't really care if you breach me. So if Will right here were to use both of his frostbites on my wall and engineer and attack, then the leftover attack or the leftover damage, he can assign it however he wants. So he could completely massacre my economy, murder my drones, which would be bad. But the thing that would be worse is if he killed my Tia Thernax, because that's sort of my only hope of dealing any damage to Will at this stage of the game. And he could, in fact, frostbite the wall engineer and then kill the Tia Thernax. So I actually I built this thing called a force field, which is a quick defender. And I also,
more drones.
yeah, the force field, when you buy it, it consumes another drone. So my drones are going down. And then I actually left a drone back defending. Because still, even like this, he could use his 2 frostbites on the wall force field, and if he attacks me for 5, he'd kill the engineer with 1, and then with his 4 remaining breach damage, he could kill the Tia Thernax, which has 4 hit points. And by the way, the Tia Thernax has this heart icon because, unlike the walls and many of the other defenders in Prismata, the Tia Thernax does take permanent damage when you deal damage to it. So that's why it has the heart instead of the blue cross. So I had to leave a drone back, and then with my remaining money, I just built another drone, and that was my play. So what did you do? You defended.
Yeah, so I wanted to leave my Doom mech alive because it was sort of the strongest unit, and I think I just did the same thing. I spammed 2 walls and an engineer, and once again, I could attack for exactly 3 and have 12 defense to your 11 attack. Now this turn, when making the decision of whether to use the frostbite, it's different because you don't have other defenders. So here, wall is sort of your only absorbing defender. So if I use up a frostbite to chill your wall, it actually is worth quite a lot because now you don't get any absorption. You're going to have to take sort of 3 points of damage on your units. You get to choose, but you're going to have to take 3 points
right.
No matter what.
And so there's a couple different ways to defend. I could defend drone engineer force field, but the force field takes 1 damage anyway, so it's not that useful. So I just defended force field engineer to keep my economy alive for as long as possible.
Yeah, so another thing I could have done is used up my second frostbite to kill more drones, but I thought I'd rather just save it to chill your wall again the next turn.
Yeah, so I think I had to force field again, because again, I don't want you to get through to my Thernax. I don't need to leave a drone back, because you only have 1 frostbite remaining. You no longer have 2 of them. And then I actually got a frostbite of my own, because I want to sort of put on a bit of counter pressure to breach you and kill your drones with my Thernax's last remaining volley of its huge attack.
Yeah, so
So you defended
with the Doom mech at the back. Yeah, and then, that frostbite was really scary because I knew at this turn, I couldn't defend properly because the frostbite could just chill and mess with my defense. So I knew that, you were probably getting through, but it was the last charge for your Tia Thernax. So my plan here is, even though I was originally the aggressive rusher, my plan at this point is just to survive. So I still just bought 2 walls and an engineer, trying to survive the 3 hits from the Thernax. Now, I used the frostbite on your wall for the same reason as last turn, and here I could have attacked for 5 and actually dealt a lot of damage to your economy, breaching 3 drones, and that looks pretty good because I'm going to get breached anyway, even if I leave.
I've noticed that you're 1 short of killing the Thernax.
Because you defended perfectly.
But yeah, you're going to get breached.
Yeah, but sort of my gut just said, I think this is pretty good, but my gut sort of just said, if I can just survive and keep more drones alive, then I would hopefully be able to hold on through the late game once the Tia Thernax runs out. So I left a Doom mech back on defense and only killed 1 drone. You could still breach me next turn, but the number of drones you could kill now goes down by 5.
Right, so I'm going to kill a lot less drones. I'm still going to frostbite 1 wall, and then I breach kill 4 drones. And then what did I do? I steel forged and got another frostbite, which I can just barely afford with my tiny economy.
Right. So at this point, that was sort of your last big attack. You did get through. You dealt a lot of damage. I'm sort of just in rebuild mode here, transitioning.
I mean, both of our economies have been damaged, but mine is now a 2-drone economy, and you still have 8.
Right. But I'm not even attacking anymore. I'm just trying to rebuild. I'm just getting a Doom mech this turn and defending with everything. I could attack, but then your frostbite would just mess me up and deal a lot of damage. So I'm just gonna rebuild.
Right. So I think I steel forged again, And this turn, actually, I have an interesting option presented to me. So if I attack for 5, normally Will would defend Engineer in front of Doom Mech, losing the Engineer. So what I'm going to do is I'm actually going to Frostbite his Engineer so that it can't defend. And now he has to put either his wall or his Steel Splitter in front of the Doom Mech. So instead of killing an Engineer, I'm actually going to kill a wall or a Steel Splitter, which is worth much more. And it's kind of strange because I'm using my Frostbite on the weaker defender. So I'm disabling the weaker defender, but it actually drastically increases the amount of damage I do to Will. So Prismata has a lot of these types of subtle tactics in the strategy. And as you play more, you get to see a lot more of them.
Yeah, and this is sort of what makes Frostbite so difficult to defend against, and sort of why I sort of gave up that last turn, because of tricks like this. So it's pretty cool. And this turn, I think I'm still just continuing to rebuild. I'm building another Doom Mech. Note that my one Doom Mech has 1 lifespan left. It's going to die this turn. And next turn, you're going to attack for 8. And basically, I'm going to lose that Doom Mech. But
it still defends.
Right. But I purchased a fresh Doom Mech. So I'm actually sort of making progress here, because what's going to happen is I'm going to replace my about-to-die Doom Mech with a brand new Doom Mech.
Right. So, this turn I literally could do nothing, because if I attack, all that I'm going to do is kill this Doom Mech, which is about to die anyway. So attacking is completely pointless. I literally just earn $1 with my drone and pass the turn back, because there's nothing I can do.
Yeah, just store it. Yeah, that's fine. Okay, and then this turn, I can sort of start doing something. So you're only attacking for 6, so I build a wall. I think, yeah, I built a wall and a drone. Nothing really better to do with the 3 gold. And attack for 3. I can afford it this turn. Yeah.
Right, so I think I lost the Rhino. Steel Forge again. And here, I have no drones left. I'm pretty much all in. So there's not too much I can do other than just attack for max every turn.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so at this point I think I realized I was in good shape, because you were going to attack for, you had 7 Steel Splitters and 1 Isochronus, which attacks for 2 every other turn, which means you're going to attack for 7 and then 9 and then 7 and then 9. And my plan was sort of to defend with 1 Doom Mech in front of another for 10 when you attack for 9, and then just defend with a wall in front of a Doom Mech when you attack for 7, and then slowly I would be able to build up some other stuff, and hopefully, if I don't make a mistake, I should be able to survive here. So I think that's what I did. So yeah, so this is the turn I gotta lose a Doom Mech, so I just bought another Doom Mech. Yeah.
Right. And you didn't attack at all.
Right, because I need to. Yeah. I need to defend.
Okay, so my plan at this point became play as fast as possible and hope Will screws up, because it is still a 5-second a turn game.
Yeah, no, definitely. It was pretty stressful at the time. Yeah, so I do that, and then this turn I build a wall, and then I chose to build a Tarsier here. So Tarsier is a unit that it takes 2 turns to build, but it's sort of the cheapest, highest DPS, sort of just the most efficient attacker. But also, it only has 1 health, which means if you got through, you can kill them very quickly. But since you were out of drones and you couldn't build any more Frostbites, Tarsier was originally a unit I would never dare to get against Tia Thurnax. But now in the late game, I'm actually transitioning to Tarsiers because it's the most efficient attacker if I can keep it safe. So yeah, so I just got a Tarsier to slowly build up my attack, and I attacked for 3 this turn because the wall can defend.
And here is awful for my defense. I don't have any good options. I either lose a wall or I take 3 damage to my Tia Thurnax. There's no possible way to defend that would do any better than either of those options. So I just take the 3 damage, and I believe here, let's see, I can actually leave a Steel Splitter back because regardless of whether I attack for 7 or 6, you're going to defend wall in front of Doom Mech, and I'm going to kill just the wall. If I attack for 5, then you'd defend Engineer in front of Doom Mech, and I do want to kill the wall, but I can afford to leave a Steel Splitter defending, which may help a little bit depending on what you attack for.
Yeah, it means I can't get through your defense this turn, so, but I wasn't really trying to, but yeah, so I would just build a Doom Mech this turn, and then I think I could build an Engineer, but it doesn't matter too much. I can build an Engineer. And then.
So at this stage, I think the game is pretty much over. It's winding down as long as Will can maintain his defense.
Yeah, and then just transitioning slowly to the late game Tarsiers here. and letting my economy take over. Yeah, so
yeah. So here you actually do get through.
Yeah, that was
you sort of breached me for 0.
Yeah, I think in the game you might have actually kept a steel splitter back and defended, but I think it doesn't matter too much at this point.
Yeah, at this point I have lost.
Die sooner or later, but yeah, no, I think that was a very interesting game. I was definitely very scared at one point, but fortunately for me, the late game transition into defense from originally being the rusher worked out in my favor against your really scary Tia Thernax rush.
Yeah, and I think Tia Thernax is often a good strategy when your opponent's under time pressure, because if they don't react appropriately, then they're going to get crushed. But Will is probably one of the best Prismata players around at the moment, so he defended adequately even with only 5 seconds a turn. And of course, not every game of Prismata is 5 seconds a turn, but we wanted to give you guys a quick demo, so that's what it was.
Yeah, we're probably not going to force you to play 5 seconds a turn on your first game.
Yeah. Anyways, so that's about it for the gameplay demo and explanation. We hope you like it. I guess we'll be putting out a few more of these at some point, hopefully.
Yep, we'll have some rematches. Should be good. Should be fun.
Next time I am going to kick your ass.
Yeah, bring it on. Okay.
All right. See you later, guys.
See you guys.